Hi guys, so my name is Samantha Hendricks and my thesis is team building activities utilized to increase positive interactions and self-worth. The purpose of the present study was to look at the effects of team building activities with adolescents diagnosed with conduct disorder, anxiety, depression on their positive and negative interactions as well as perceived self-worth. So, a little bit of background from previous research is that residential treatment does have an increased risk of poor outcomes along with lower self esteem. And then a little bit of research from team building was that it was shown to increase psychological well being, positive social development, productivity, and trust. So, I'm kind of one of the first ones to combine all these things and look at team building as a group intervention for a residential group home for adolescents with conduct disorder, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. So, my hypothesis was that team building would cause the participant to conduct more positive social interactions, less negative social interactions, and increase their perceived self worth in a team environment. So, my participant was a 15-year-old female who was clinically diagnosed with anxiety, depression, conduct disorder, and PTSD. The setting was an all female residential group home with women at the ages of 13 to 16. There was approximately 7 of them currently. And the research design was a single subject A/B design, with phase A lasting 4 days and phase B lasting 8 days. The dependent variables were the self report of perceived self worth, the observation of positive social interactions, and the observation of negative social interactions. And the independent variable was team building. All the materials used for the team building were cost effective Dollar Tree items or random household items. For the procedure, I observed for an hour before for those positive and negative social interactions. I would then give the self report, the pre side of it, right before the group intervention. They would complete it. We would then go ahead and do the intervention. And then the post self report was done, which was the exact same questions as the pre. And then I would again observe for another hour. This is what the self report looked like. Again, the front side is the exact same as the back side. Some of the things on it are like to work well with others today, or I enjoy constructive criticism, or I matter to the group. Feel free to pause and take a deeper look at it. This is the key observations that I would look for negative. You got ignored peers, no comments about views, nonverbal communication, such as thumbs up or saying things like, negative interaction, or sorry, positive interactions, we're going to go ahead and look for initiated conversations, discussing their views, and then that 2+ word response, verbal communication. Again, feel free to pause and take a look at them. So these are my 3 favorite team building activities that I completed during this intervention. I absolutely love them and I will continue to utilize them for the rest of my life. I highly suggest you guys take a look at them. Feel free to pause. So these are the results for the negative interactions. As you can see, that downward slope, I'm really proud of it. And the blue is obviously baseline and the red is going to go ahead and be the intervention. With them go ahead and being an overall reduction in negative social interactions, you will see on the last day it's a little bit higher. However, if we look at the positive interactions, it's extremely higher as well. What happened on that day was my participant did have a verbal and physical altercation with another peer, and I think that's kind of what issued it, which is why I would have liked my intervention to go a little bit longer, and I'll discuss that more in limitations. For positive interactions, you can see that clear upward um, trend. And if you can tell by the baseline, we went from having an average of 4 positive interactions to 35. So I'm extremely happy with that. She didn't have to, increase positive interactions. She could have just decreased her negative, but she chose to, and that was amazing. For the self worth value, I did get a slightly increase in the average of the self worth value from the self reports. However, I don't think they were taken very seriously. I think that was the lack of motivation, which is why the incentive of candy was given. So, the proposed hypothesis that team building would cause the participant to conduct more positive interactions, less negative interactions, and increase their perceived self worth in a team environment was supported. I think some of the limitations could be the inconsistent schedule. However, that could be looked at positive because even with an inconsistent schedule of maybe 2 groups this week or 3 groups this week, and only having 8 days instead of 10, we were able to see a clear reduction in the negative social interactions and increase in positive social interactions. So it could be looked at positively. The reason that I only got 8 instead of 10 days was I did have to receive the vaccination halfway through, and it did put me out for a little bit. And not to mention their very strict environment. We weren't just working in a group home, we were working in a residential group home, and we were also working in a residential group home and that had their own strict rules along with COVID-19 rules. So it's very hard to pick team building activities, but we were able to do it. And even with that as a limitation, I would say it's pretty positive because we were able to get the results we wanted. And then, of course, the annoyance of the self report that I discussed earlier. Thank you guys so much for your time. And there's plenty more to discuss if you're interested. Please feel reach out to me. And these are the references I used. Thank you guys.